after the storm. Welcome to another reading from, let me see if I can get in a better position here. I'm not quite sure why this happens actually, but anyway, there we are. Why am I saying it's the calm after the storm? Because we just had a big storm blow through. It was very, very strong. I don't know what the winds were, but according to the TV, it was like 70 plus miles an hour. But it was very strong. A lot of thunder and lightning, of course, a lot of rain. And our next door neighbor, a large tree in their front yard, the whole tree didn't fall down, but it got lopped off about halfway up. It got lopped off, and what was above it was still all the branches and the leaves and everything. So this whole thing came down in the road, in the street. And as it turned out, the fire department came out and they cleared the street to make sure that people could drive on the street. And then our neighbor found out via another neighbor of ours, who is a lady we walk with sometimes in the mornings. The fire department actually don't clean anything away. They just make sure that the road is drivable. They move it all out onto people's front yards at either side, and then they go. And then you've got to call the commissioner's office to actually find out about how to get all the stuff carted away. And apparently the commissioner's office will do that. But because this storm affected the whole area around here, including the Woodlands, it's probably going to take a while before everybody's yard gets cleared up. None came down on ours, but it's on several of the neighbors. I think at least 3, maybe 4 yards. So that was kind of the excitement of the day, but it really does fit into today's reading. I mean, it really does. It's amazing, how these things get together, because when we heard the noise and it turned out to be the fire department with their chainsaws, we immediately tried to call our neighbor, but his phone was busy. Then we called the other neighbor who's been advising him, and she was able to update us on what was going on. And then later on, I went out there. I was talking to his wife. He was still on the phone, I guess, trying to arrange things, and just offered our support there. So this really, really is incredibly tied in with the reading for today. And it's also tied in with the readings I've been doing for the class that I'm taking on Tuesday evenings. The class that's being run by Reverend Katie Ross-Brigatti, or I get mixed up between ministerial titles. She's our staff minister who's based out in California. I keep forgetting. Reverend Lisa Ryan and I used to be staff ministers. Now we are assistant ministers. Apparently, it's a little bit different. We were converted to assistant ministers. But really, welcome once again to another reading from the Science of Mind magazine, The Daily Guides. If you don't know who we are, look us up. We are Creative Life Spiritual Center. You might say that we are a non-traditional church, if you want, in the sense that everything is a church, whether it's called a church, a spiritual center, a mosque, a temple, whatever they are. They're all churches. Why? Because the word church originates from a word that means a gathering, and they're all gatherings. So why do I say that what I just told you is relevant to today's reading? Because it's called Lessons in Community. Lessons in Community. How about that? The first quote is from someone I'm sure all of you have heard of, George Bernard Shaw. And he said, "I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community. And as long as I live, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can." And then in a Holmes Reader on Change, he kind of goes to the scene behind this, if you like. It's supposedly on page 32 of a Holmes Reader on Change. I don't have that publication. I don't know whether it really is on page 32 or not. But it's on page 32 of some edition of that. Ernest Holmes says, "No greater good can come to you than to know that the power already within you is the power to live, the power to create. Not only to create for yourself, but for others. The power to do good, the power to heal, the power to prosper." This really is a day where everything's coming together, because my wife has got a couple of brothers. One lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and the other one lives in the Netherlands. And the one she was talking to today using a communication app, I won't say which one it was. I guess I'm not supposed to plug them. I don't know. And it turns out that he used to be a Mason, and then some of the personalities in his group of Masons in The Hague, the Netherlands, I guess he didn't get on with them, so he left. But now he's joining a group called the Odd Fellows. Yes, the Odd Fellows. And apparently they're more geared to actually helping others. They're involved in the social aspects. So really and truly, everything is coming together on this reading. So I don't know whether Reverend Ryan is psychic or what, but certainly all these things have happened today have been part of this whole story. Anyway, here's what Reverend Ryan says. My chosen family and I used to play this game on a regular basis. Around a table piled high with a ton of food, we each would discuss the skills we would bring to the group's survival in the event of a zombie apocalypse. Some have brilliant tent making ideas. Others could make a 5-course meal with berries and wild mushrooms. One could build a fire by rubbing 2 sticks together, and others, like me, Reverend Ryan says, could lend stellar emotional support. Each person brought unique strengths, thus ensuring the survival of the group. Although for the moment this is a totally hypothetical scenario, I think this is actually what community looks like. A community offers an opportunity to everyone to bring their own zombie apocalypse skills. I mean, strengths and talents to the table for everyone to be authentically seen as an integral part of the survival of the whole. When each of us is free to live and to express our true selves, then the movement of the whole is fluid, rich, and springing with possibilities. It is this unity that both individual transformation, it is in this unity that both individual transformation and communal evolution truly can be found. So we may not be preparing for a zombie apocalypse, but we are striving for a world where the essence of community is actualized. What will you bring to the party? As I said, I don't think this could have been any more on the point than it really is today, because we've talked often in the past about community, mostly from an emotional standpoint, but sometimes from an actual physical standpoint, like when there's a hurricane or some other natural disaster. And in actual fact, Reverend Dr. Jesse Jennings, our senior minister, just in the past week or so, sent out a message to lots of people in our community asking if we would be prepared once again to be part of a team that helps when disasters happen by calling people and so on and so forth. So all this has kind of come together in one. So I think it was kind of cool. What it also brings to mind is this, that I don't know what your idea of prayer is. You know, all of us have got different ideas of prayer. You know, when I was a kid, I guess, like maybe as a teenager, I don't know, but I would plead with God. I would say, hey, if you'll do this for me, I'll do that. I won't eat sweets for a week if you bring this about. So I was bartering with the divine. And other people just shout and scream at the divine. But in our teaching, we don't do that. We follow what Jesus said. He said, it's done unto you as you believe. And Jesus, if you read, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, whatever religion you belong to, I'm sure that you, like me and everybody, and lots of other people, respect Jesus. He was always telling us 2 things: the kingdom of heaven's within you, and it's done unto you as you believe. And if you read about him, he never, ever pleaded with the divine. He called the divine Father. He could have equally called it Mother had it been a matriarchal society. But he called it Father. And he never pleaded with it. He just went on the assumption that he was heard and that it would come to pass. When he rose Lazarus from the dead, he didn't say, "Hey, Father, would you please bring Lazarus out of the tomb?" No, he stood there. He said, "Father, you always hear me. Lazarus, come out." He was emphatic. He truly believed. And it's at a level of belief that I think goes into knowingness. We've all been in that situation where we just know. We've been in the zone sometimes. We just know things are going to happen. And it's my belief that when we're in this knowing zone, that things truly start to happen because we don't question it. We just know. And once we know, all doubt goes to one side. And when doubt goes to one side, it all comes about. But getting back to the subject matter today, yeah, it is all about community, really. We are social animals. We're definitely. Some people might go off into the mountains or into a cloistered monastery, but that's not for the bulk of the people. If it was, the human race wouldn't survive. We are a social species. We get together. I remember as a kid, all the neighbors knew each other. We didn't lock our doors. Neighbors watched out for people. Certainly, if I got in trouble, my mother would know about it because the neighbors would tell her. So we're social animals. And it's good in many, many senses of the word. It's good in the mental sense. It's good in the material sense. And it's good in building up the community for the world to be a better place. Remember, the motto of Centers for Spiritual Living, of which we are a member, says a world that works for everyone. The affirmation: I bring my whole self to life and create space for others to do the same. I bring my whole self to life and I create space for others to do the same. So what do you think about this reading? Yeah, depending where you are in the country, in the world, you may not have actually experienced any storms recently. Or you may be on the other extreme and you may be aware of what's going on in Papua New Guinea, where 2,000 plus people were buried alive, or in parts of the world where there's a lot of violence going on. But what we can do is we can hold the peace. And eventually, when enough people do that, peace and love will be the norm. Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, reading from the Science of Mind textbook. She's making comments on it because, believe me, reading the Science of Mind textbook on its own is dry. It's a really dry read, and it needs a little bit of lightening up. So tune in to Reverend Lisa tomorrow morning on the same channel. Well, actually, the channel she's on is Creative Life, Spiritual Centers, Facebook channel and YouTube channel. It'll be live on Facebook Live tomorrow. It will be recorded onto YouTube and also onto our Facebook page. But she will be live tomorrow morning, Creative Life Spiritual Center Facebook page. So until next time, take care of yourselves. And if you need help, please reach out to us. Namaste.